segmental and suprasegmental features of speech. We have already seen that we cannot go for teaching discrete sounds, words or even sentences for developing listening and speaking skills as is done in traditional approaches. Instead, we have to work out classroom processes that will fall in line with the research-based approach. In order to do this, we have to address ourselves to a few questions. What should be the contents of pronunciation instruction? What techniques and strategies will be required to transact these? How do we incorporate the contents, techniques and strategies in the modules of classroom transaction as conceived in discourse-oriented pedagogy? Let us take up the first question. The shift in focus from discrete sounds and words implies bringing in suprasegmental features of speech alongside the segmental features. We will presently flesh out these notions to understand this concept better. Phoneticians have made a conceptual division of speech into segmental and suprasegmental parts. The suprasegmentals cover features such as length, intonation, syllabification and tone. The segmental part of speech includes place and manner of articulation, voicing for consonants, tongue height, advancement, lip rounding, tenseness for vowels. However, it can be seen that this division is not very clean as phonetic correlates of stress, intonation, etc. often manifest at the segmental level in consonants and vowels too. Therefore, rather than referring to segmentals versus suprasegmentals, some phoneticians prefer the more general term prosody for the discussion on these phenomena. Since we have already discussed the segmental features of speech, we will consider the suprasegmentals. We will begin with the length or duration of a sound. Some speech sounds are inherently longer than the others. For example, high vowels are shorter than low vowels. What do I mean by that? Try contrasting big and bag. E, that is the high front unrounded vowel in big, is shorter than A, low front unrounded vowel as in bag. Voiceless consonants are longer than voiced consonants. Try contrasting pig and big. The sound P in pig is longer than B in big. Voiceless fricatives are the longest consonants of all. For example, the sound F in fan requires longer distance. So, if you recall, fricatives, there is an obstruction of the airflow. So, the F sound in fan requires longer distance. The sounds around also, remember I was talking about the neighboring sounds, influence the duration of the sound. Let me give you an example. Compare the words bead, beat, bees. If you look at the example bead, the sound E is before the voiced consonant D, and therefore it requires 1.5 times longer time or duration, if you want to say, than the same vowel before a voiceless consonant, as in bit, where the sound E precedes the voiceless consonant T, while the E in B's is as long as E in bit. Let us now discuss intonation. This refers to the pattern of rises and falls in pitch across a stretch of speech, such as a sentence or an utterance. Sentence written and utterance the spoken form. Pitch here means the highness or lowness. As it operates over phrases and sentences, it does not distinguish individual words but plays an important role in determining utterance meaning. Edge tones occur at the end of phrases, including sentences. These shape the meaning in various ways and aid in processing sentence structure. Let us look at the example now. Example 1a. You got an A on the test versus example 1b. You got an A on the test. Now, in the first utterance, 1a, it was a statement, but in 1b, you can clearly identify with the tone that it is a question. Let us look at example C. You got an A on the test, a C on the homework and a B on the quiz. Notice the change in the meaning by changing the tone. Let's look at one more example. Example 2a. Yes, indicating an answer. Yes, indicating a guess. Yes, indicating a reply to do you want it? Yes, to indicate something being I see the point, yes, being said in an evil way. Pitch, accent refers to the use of pitch used to give prominence to a word used in English to focus words. Let us look at one more example. 3a. Who kissed Peter? Mary kissed Peter versus 4a. Who did Mary kiss? Mary kissed Peter. So therefore, the stress or the prominence is being given to Peter. Example 5a. What did Mary do to Peter? Mary kissed Peter. Mary didn't kick Peter. Mary didn't hit Peter. Mary kissed Peter. So therefore, the prominence on Mary kissed Peter. So in all these examples, for the same sentence, if you notice carefully, it is the same utterance. Mary kissed Peter. So you can move the stress to give prominence to different words. Stress is a property of syllables, not individual segments. It refers to prominence due to a particular syllable due to increased amplitude, pitch and length. Stress placement may be predictable or unpredictable. Languages frequently have some predictable and some non-predictable stress. In English, stress is sometimes non-predictable, sometimes predictable. Stress distinguishes some nouns from verbs. If you take the example, produce versus produce. The produce this year was very low. The cow produces 10 liters of milk. In the first sentence, The use of the word was a noun. It was a noun. And therefore, the stress was on the initial syllable. In the second sentence, where I said, the cow produces 10 liters of milk every day, produces there is a verb. And therefore, the stress on the final syllable. In the beginning of the session, we posed 3 questions. The answer to the first question, that is, what should be the contents of pronunciation instruction, emerges from the present discussion. Suprasegmental features of speech should be an essential component to be included in pronunciation instruction. Common strategies for teaching pronunciation. We are now familiar with the suprasegmental features of speech. Researchers in the field have suggested a few strategies to teach these features. We will examine a few of them. The most commonly used strategy to teach intonation is to draw pitch lines or curves. The lines will visually represent where the pitch falls or where the pitch rises in a given utterance. See the pitch line drawn for the sentence, "How was your trip?" Let us look at the sentence. Now, if you notice this sentence, "How was your trip?" So you can see how the pitch rises and falls. Another simple strategy to teach intonation is to draw arrows over the place where pitch changes. For example, see the arrows drawn for the sentences, "Can we rent it or buy it?" Our class meets on Monday, Wednesday and Friday. So, for Monday, Wednesday and in Friday there is a falling tone. So, whenever there is a list of objects that you are talking about, I went to the market and bought tomatoes, potatoes and onion. Tomatoes, potatoes and onion. So, in a list, the initial components of the list will have a rising tone and the final component of the list will take a falling tone. Researchers have divided stress and rhythm into several levels. These are: number 1, word stress; 2, sentence stress; 3, linking; 4, consonants; 5, vowels. A few strategies have been suggested to teach word stress. Teachers can emphasize the stressed syllable by using visual effects such as thicken, capitalize, underline or color. For example, see how the stressed syllable is highlighted in the word himself. Let us look at it. In the first word, you can see himself. It is the second syllable that is highlighted. The highlighting can also be done by capitalizing the stressed syllable. You see that HIM are in lower cases and SE there are in higher cases. Or the teacher can also underline the stressed syllable to help noticing the stressed syllable, or the teacher can color code the stressed syllable by using a different color for the letter SE. Another strategy to teach word stress is using rubber bands. Teacher pulls a wide rubber band between the two thumbs while saying a word. Let me show it to you. When the teacher is talking about or teaching the differentiation between pull and pull, the teacher stretches the rubber band and shows them whether the syllable has to be of a longer duration, whether the vowel there, for example, in the example that I just showed you, should it be pull or pool, whether it is sip or sheep. She stretches it out during the stressed syllable but leaves it short during other syllables. Tapping, clapping or playing simple rhythm instruments also serves as a strategy for teaching word stress. Teacher gives a strong beat to the stressed syllable and weak beats to others by clapping or tapping on the desk. It helps students to be aware that unstressed syllables have weak beats and so their vowels need to be reduced in length. Now we enter the domain of sentence stress. The first step to identify the content words in a sentence. The teacher has to let students know that content words are usually emphasized. Now that we have used the word content, let me also give you the example of content versus content. Which one is a noun and which one is a verb? Content is a noun because it is, if by listening to the pronunciation you should be able to make the difference. Content words, content as a noun. Content, he wasn't content with the prize, there as a verb. Let's move on. We were talking about the teacher who has to help students or tell students that content words are usually emphasized. Then students can be asked to circle or underline content words in a sentence and give these words extra emphasis when saying the sentence. For example, in a sentence like, we went to market and bought some paper. In this sentence, went, market, bought and paper are the content words which are receiving the prominence compared to the function words which aren't receiving as much prominence as the content words. Simple rhymes can be used to help the learners develop awareness of the sentence stress. The teacher can apply the rhythm of nursery rhymes to the rhythm of ordinary sentences. Let us take the example here. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. In this rhyme, a sentence taken from a rhyme, the word hick in hickory, dick in dickory, dock. So, the mouse, it is not the which is being highlighted, it is mouse ran up the clock. Do it according to plan. I would like to cash a check. So, these are other examples where you can give some more practice to students. So, the teacher gives a series of sentences, asks the students to identify the content words and then ask them to utter these sentences by giving importance to the content words. And based on what situation they are in, whether they are answering a question or whether they are requesting someone, that will decide where the stress should be marked or placed. One of the essential characteristics of spoken English is linking. The words in a thought group are linked together. This is necessary to pronounce English fluently. There are some techniques to apply teaching linking. Number 1, chain pictures. Use chains to give a visual image of spoken English. For example, look at the sentences and their corresponding chain pictures. Thank you. Pick it up. Cup of tea. So, I am not saying cup of tea. I'm trying to link them together in the example cup of tea. I would like to have a cup of tea. So there is no distinction, but the teacher can show that these word endings in actual speech can be linked by drawing the connections between words which will not have a very specific word boundary. Another technique to teach linking is curved lines. It is drawn between the last and the first letters to indicate that they need to be linked together. For example, see the curved line showing linking in the sentence hold on. Hold on. So, we are trying to show here that the word ending "d" and the word beginning "o" of the words hold and on respectively are not very clear when you are saying hold on. So, the speed with which somebody says it is not hold on, and therefore a curved line can be used to indicate that they follow very quickly. Now we will consider consonants. Lin, Fan and Shen 1995 claim that one of the techniques to teach suprasegmental features of the ending consonants is song lyrics. Teachers can ask students to read some popular song lyrics aloud to practice final consonants. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. In this particular line from a song highlights the sound T, the consonant T. Round young virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild. So, between child and mild. So, if someone is asking you how do we pronounce this word M-I-L-D, so it is pronounced in a similar way or rhymes, you can use that as the aspect of helping someone to tell them that M-I-L-D somewhat rhymes with child, mild. That's how you would help them know how is the D in M-I-L-D pronounced. So, you can help them by telling them that it rhymes with the word child. Numbers are another choice for practicing consonants. For example, 301, 405, 5616. So, if you look at the example 5616, you can identify that the sound S is prominent there, the repetition. By giving them the number repeatedly, you can also help learners in practicing consonants. Finally, let us discuss the techniques for teaching suprasegmental features of vowels. The strategies to teach vowels are as follows. Use a rubber band. In E, students have to pull both to the end. Remember, I demonstrated that to you. So, they pull the rubber band much farther when it is a long vowel, and when it is a shorter vowel, they pull the rubber band a little, not very far. If I have to take the example of sit, where E is a short vowel, versus seat, which is a long vowel. Students just need to pull both the sides a little bit when it is a longer vowel. Except rubber bands, a mirror is another good tool for students to see the shape of their lips. Is it O as in cot, or is it A as in apple? So, the rounding of the lips seen in a mirror can also be a good tool to help students to see the shape of their lips, how they change when the vowel changes. The discussion carried out so far in this lesson addresses the first two questions, that is, what should be the contents of pronunciation instruction? What techniques and strategies will be required to transact these? Now we have to examine whether the strategies and techniques discussed here are compatible with the parameters of the constructivist paradigm in general and the classroom processes conceived in the discourse-oriented pedagogy. For this, we will meet in the next session. Thank you, students.